So it's like 6 o'clock right now. I actually got some rain here this morning. If you take a look at the ground, you're gonna see some water on the ground. Oh, it started raining at like 4 in the morning, and then it rained all the way up until like 2 in the afternoon. And we didn't get a whole lot of rain, but it rained for a long time. We got about 1.5 inches of rain, about 1.25 inches. And so this rain right here, it's not going to be enough to rehydrate the field. Even when I step on the ground, like you see how I'm stepping on the ground. If the ground was real wet, if the ground had a lot of water, I would actually be sinking into the soil. Like any time that I walked around on the field, I would be going like 6 inches into the soil. I would actually be sinking into the soil. And so right now the ground is not that wet. It's still pretty dry. And so about next week it's about to go back up to 88, and it's not really supposed to rain again. And so the ground is still pretty dry. And that's another thing that you can do. Like me, I know that when my field has a substantial amount of water, if I'm walking around out here while it's wet, I'll actually sink into the soil about 6 inches. And right now I'm standing on the soil, and it just feels like I'm just standing on a little bit of wet ground. And so it's not very wet. And so my soil is still too dry, and it's still just a little bit too hot. But plowing up the field right before, or plowing up the field in preparation of the new planting was a very good idea. Because plowing up the field is going to help push some more of that moisture into the ground. It's not just going to run off the field. And so yesterday I was talking about the utilization of fertilizer. And I got a follow-up question. Because if you have already caught on to this, that's a very good sign. That means you're using your head. You're thinking about what's going on. You're really trying to, you're really thinking about what's going on. And but I got a follow-up question, and if you've already caught on to the idea, that's a very good sign. But the follow-up question is if I anticipate the overall fertilizer, the direction for fertilizer. I'm not saying this is exactly how much fertilizer I'm going to use, but the direction that I am heading is to utilize a 5:1:3 NPK ratio fertilizer, right? That's the direction that I'm heading. Is that exactly what I'm going to use? No, it's not. It's just the direction that I'm going. And the direction that I'm going is to utilize about 250 pounds of nitrogen over the next 9 months. That's the direction that I'm going. That's not exactly how much I'm going to use. But if I'm going to use, but the follow-up question is, why does Farmer Howard believe it is a good idea to put 60 pounds of phosphorus and potassium on his soil? Why did I come up with the 60-pound number? Why am I utilizing 60 pounds? The answer is because if I utilize 60 pounds of phosphorus and I utilize 60 pounds of potassium, let's say that a little bit of it washes away, or whatever happens, right? And then I end up with 50 pounds. And I have 50 pounds of phosphorus and potassium. Even if I end up with all 100% 60 pounds of phosphorus and potassium on my field, then now I am able to utilize all 250 pounds of nitrogen. That's why I've decided to use 60 pounds of phosphorus and potassium. And I was talking about this yesterday. And if you've already caught on to the idea, before I asked the question, if you caught on to it yesterday, then that's a very good sign that now you're using your head. You're thinking like a farmer, right? So that's the question, and that's the answer. Why is Farmer Howard going to put 60 pounds of phosphorus and potassium on his field? Because it's a positively charged fertilizer. It will bind itself to the soil chemically. I will be plowing it into the field, and I am anticipating that the direction that I will be heading is to utilize a 5:1:3 NPK fertilizer ratio, and I will be utilizing about 250 pounds of nitrogen. That's the answer. That's why I'm putting 60 pounds of phosphorus and potassium on my field per acre. And so now you're starting to think, you know, if you were already thinking about that, oh, I see why he's putting 60 pounds of phosphorus. I see why he's putting 60 pounds of potassium. If you've already been thinking about that, I see why he's doing that, then that's very good. It means you're using your head. And so, but that's what I'm doing, and that's why it is the plan. And I always say forward thinking in an objectively correct direction. Right? You want to be thinking objectively correct. You don't want to be in a situation where you just, oh my God, well, I fell out of heaven a 7 and I can be a farmer, and I was born a farmer and I was God's gift to the earth. And so I need to be a farmer tomorrow. And if that's you, then you're screwed. Right? I mean, you need to be thinking objectively. I'm going to apply this much fertilizer on my field. I'm going to be doing that because I am utilizing this method of application. I'm plowing it into the field. And over the 9-month period, I am anticipating that I utilize about 50 pounds of phosphorus and about 150 pounds of potassium. My soil has a soil pH of about 7.4. And on my field, I do not have a potassium deficiency unless I correct the nitrogen, phosphorus, and sulfur deficiency. But once I correct the nitrogen, phosphorus, and sulfur deficiency, I end up with a potassium deficiency. And so if right out the gate I am anticipating that I utilize 3 times more potassium than phosphorus, then there must be some sort of phosphorus in my soil. Or excuse me, there must be some sort of potassium in my soil. And my soil pH is also at a 7.4. So, you know, that's you got to be thinking about these things. What am I going to do, right? What is the plan? Why am I doing it? Is it correct? You have to think about all of this stuff, because if you mess it up, it's like, and I wrote this in the description yesterday, but it's almost like handling a grenade. You know, I don't know how this, well, I mean, you know, the thing about YouTube is that it just, on the shorts, it just puts up videos, right? And you can watch them. And on my YouTube shorts yesterday, or the day before, or sometime, I think it was the day before, there was a short that came up, and it was like a guy teaching another guy how to throw a grenade. And the guy who was supposed to be throwing the grenade was having difficulties like pulling the pin out the grenade. And you know, and a lot of you don't understand that if you decide that you want to be a farmer, and I've been talking about this, but if you decide that you want to be a farmer, you're not just a cattleman and you're not just a crop man. You're also a businessman. And if you want to start a farm, the chances of you succeeding are already borderline almost 0%. If you even want to start a business, the chances of you actually succeeding are almost 0%. If you are a first-generation farmer, nobody in your family was ever a farmer, a legitimate farmer, not just a Billy Joe Bob, but an actual farmer. If you are a first-generation farmer looking to start a farm and a successful farm, a successful business, your chances of making it are almost 0%. And you could actually end up majorly ruining your finances. You could end up putting yourself in a situation where you are financially doing so poorly that you've actually caused like a problems with your family. And you can actually end up, causing harm. You could actually end up causing problems for the people that you care about. Right? I mean, this is very serious. If you're going to start a farm, you have to understand that the chances of you making it are almost 0% already. If you're thinking about starting a business, your chances of making it are already almost 0%. This is why I talk about buying a business, right? Why, you should just probably go and buy a business. And so it's very serious. And, and if you don't start taking it like that, like if you're not sitting here really looking to learn and apply yourself, and you're going to go out and after you've watched this video, you're going to go out and you're going to practice how to become a farmer, and you're going to teach yourself how to farm, and you're going to commit yourself to it every day. If you're not like that, you're not going to make it. I would be willing to bet 50 to 1 you're not going to make it to the 10% mark if you live to be 5,000. Farming is already one of the hardest things that you could ever imagine. Running a business, starting a business is already one of the hardest things you could ever imagine. Starting a farming business is probably going to be the hardest thing that you have ever done. Ever. And nothing else will even come close. And so, I had that follow-up question. I came up with that follow-up, or I was thinking about that follow-up question, and I was like, oh, this is a good time to see if you're actually, if you're actually not just sitting there like a mindless zombie. Are you actually using your head? Are you actually thinking about what's going on? All of that, right? So why would Farmer Howard put 50, 60 pounds of phosphorus potassium on his field? Because that's about how much phosphorus potassium I anticipate that I will use over a 9-month period if I apply 250 pounds of nitrogen. And 250 pounds of nitrogen over a 9-month period is about 25 pounds of nitrogen a month. And so, but that's the follow-up question, and that's the answer. It's about 25 to 50. It's somewhere. I usually utilize about 25 to 35 pounds of nitrogen a month. I use about 25, 30 or so pounds. I bring home 1 tonnage of fertilizer a month. And sometimes, sometimes I'll just put straight urea on my field, like towards the end of the season, if I'm anticipating that I'll be plowing up my crop within the next 2 months, and I'm like, well, if I'm going to plow up my crop over the next 2 months, I really want to deplete the amount of phosphorus and the amount of potassium in my field. And usually by that time, it's the end of spring. It's about the middle of spring, and it's starting to get warm, and there's a lot of water. And so the plants are already well established, and there's a lot of biomass. And so when the plants are more well established and there's an ample amount of water, and it's a little warm outside, the plants will utilize more fertilizer. And so usually towards about the middle of spring, I'll be applying just straight urea. And I'll apply straight urea to cause a nitrogen imbalance in the soil. I'll be looking to create a soil, a mineral situation, soil mineral situation where there's an ample amount of nitrogen. And if there's an ample amount of nitrogen, but I don't apply any phosphorus or potassium, the plants will absorb more phosphorus and potassium. And so, it'll cause a nitrogen imbalance, and then I can re-plow up the field. And when I plow up the field, I can apply phosphorus and potassium then. And so, up until about the middle of spring, I'll be applying, one of the fertilizer mixtures that I utilize very frequently is like an ammonium sulfate that's mixed with a potassium. I forget, but it's like a 25-5-15. There's a fertilizer. It's like 25-5-15 or something. And I usually I'll utilize that pretty frequently, and then I'll put about a tonnage of that on my field, maybe once every month or two. And so, but that's when I have good weather conditions. If it doesn't rain, then I'm not going to fertilize my field, etc., etc. And so, but yep, that was the follow-up question. Let me see if I can come up with anything else. Right now, things are going good. I got that new field. That new field is going good. Things aren't going great. Up until about 2 weeks ago, things were going fantastic. I mean, things were going incredibly well. And then up until about 2 weeks ago, they were going incredibly well. And as of right now, they are going just okay. And I wanted to talk about the idea of blowing yourself up. Well, okay. So the idea of blowing yourself up. I would think that, nobody is intentionally looking to blow themselves up, right? I mean, you're not sitting there fiddling around with this thing with the intention of blowing yourself up. And how do you know, okay, so let me talk about it this way. Here's a good example. I always say, okay, I'm just going to talk about it in terms of a personal perspective. If you're broke, a good sign that you're broke and not poor is that if you're broke, you just don't have money. but you're not really worried about it. Like me right now, I have about $5,000 cash in my bank account, but I'm not worried about it. I'm just not worried about it. Why am I not worried? I'm not like ignoring my problems, right? Why am I not worried about it? Because if I honestly needed more than $5,000 cash for whatever reason, I don't know what you would need more than $5,000 cash for, but if for whatever reason I decided I needed more than $5,000 cash, I could go and make 20 grand tomorrow, right? I mean, I could bring home $20,000 tomorrow. It wouldn't be a big deal. So am I broke? Sure, right? I mean, yeah, I got 5 grand in my bank. But let's say for whatever reason, I've decided that I need more than $5,000 cash tomorrow. I've just decided I need more than 5 grand. Well, I can go and make 20 grand tomorrow. It's not a big deal. I think that the big idea, the difference between, and I want to make this very, I think it's a good way to look at it in terms of a perspective. Like if I was talking to somebody and they didn't have money and I got to talking with them and they were a broke person, they were just broke, they just didn't have money, I wouldn't be worried. It's okay. I mean, you can always make money tomorrow. It's not a big deal. But if they were a poor person, that would be very bad. You're probably not going to recover from that. Ever. I mean, I can almost guarantee you're probably going to die that way. I mean, once you've become poor, if you've become poor, not broke, but poor, it's very different. Like me, even if I lost everything tomorrow, I would still be a world-class farmer. Right? I mean, realistically, if I lost everything tomorrow, I could just go and rent a farm. I could rent a farm. I could rent a 25, 35 acre farm, and it would cost like what, $2,300 a month. Right? I could just rent a 25, 35 acre farm. I would be broke for about 4 months. I'd just go and, I'd just go and get a job to pay the bills, and then I would go to the bank and ask for a line of credit, and I would take that line of credit and I would purchase myself some assets. And within 6 months, I would be right back to where I am. So much money, I could do whatever I want. Effectively. Can I buy a yacht? No, I can't. Right? Can I buy a private jet? No, I can't. Can I go and do a bunch of drugs? No, I can't. Can I go and drink a bunch of alcohol? No, I can't. Can I go and gamble a bunch of money? No, I can't. But I mean, if I want, if I want to go and buy myself a new, I could rent a farm for 1 year, and then I rent the farm for a year, and then I make all my money, and then if I want to go and buy myself another farm, if I want to buy myself a field, I'll just buy myself a field. If I want to buy myself a new truck, I'll just buy myself a new truck. If I want to buy myself a tractor, I'll just buy myself a tractor. Like even right now, and this is gonna sound horrible, and it's like, oh my God, well, you're only saying this because you make $20,000 a month, but I mean, I'm telling you, even if my income went to zero tomorrow, and I had to redo everything, I could redo everything in 6 months. I wouldn't be a poor person. I'm not going to sit there and go, oh my God, I don't have $1 million. This is not fair. I'm not going to sit there and go, oh my God, a pity party, a worthless scheme, La La Land adventure, mystical, magical, adventure time. I'm not going to be doing that. Well, it's like, yeah, I'm broke. Yeah, right. I'm broke, but, I can go and rent myself another farm and go and get a job, and I can work that job and pay for my rent. And once I do that, I can just go to the bank and ask for a line of credit, and I'll get a line of credit, and I'll just buy myself some more cattle. And within 6 months, I essentially just am effectively right back to where I am. Making about, I could make $8,000 to $9,000 a month within 6 months very easily. It wouldn't even be hard. By the end of the year, I would be right back to where I am, making like $20,000 a month. It wouldn't be hard. Right? And this is what I'm saying. Like, once you've become a poor person, it's almost impossible. If you're broke, it's not a big deal. Because you already understand that you could just go and make more money tomorrow. You want to go and make more money, you can just go and make money tomorrow. It's not a big deal. But if you're poor, you're stuck that way forever. And I guarantee, even me, if I lost everything tomorrow, granted that for me to lose everything, I would have to go and do something like start doing drugs. I would have to do something like go and get myself 5 girlfriends. Right? I mean, I would have to do something stupid. Right? I mean, and, I've always said that the last step to becoming, to doing well for yourself financially is to not act like an idiot, right? But me, even if I lost everything tomorrow, it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter, because all of this, like in terms of the money, I can always just go and make the money again. I know how to make the money. So it wouldn't matter. And maybe if I speak about this, it will open your perspective. If you're broke, it's not that big of a deal. But if you're poor, you're probably stuck that way forever. What are some symptoms of being poor and not broke? You're having a life and death battle over everything. Right? I mean, even simple information, life and death battle. You try and do a 1/4 inch better, life and death battle. Right? I mean, everything. Oh my God, the world is unfair because I don't have $1 million. You don't need $1 million. This is actually a very good, like if you're somebody who thinks that you need $1 million, like let's say, and like when you're watching my YouTube video, nobody's going to judge you, right? So just be honest with yourself. If there's 500 of you, and if I've just nailed the nail on the head, if I just hit the nail on the head, be honest with yourself. Because if you're honest with yourself, at least you can get better. At least you've admitted that you are doing this, and this is not good. You don't need $1 million. Right? I've already talked about this. You don't need $1 million. Realistically, if you can get your income up to about $8,000 or $9,000 a month, take home pay, then after that you can effectively do anything that you want. Right? If you invest your money into something, you're not spending any money. You're just trading the money for something that is equally as valuable as the money itself. And realistically, when you invest that money, it should start producing you money tomorrow. You should not be buying some horribly damaged asset that has 0 cash flow and you think that you can save it. Right? I mean, when you invest your money, you should not be, in a worst case scenario, you should always lowball yourself. If you lowball yourself for this asset that you are purchasing, and the asset is producing this much cash flow right now, and then you lowball yourself, something goes horribly wrong, how much money are you going to have to put in to make that asset whole, and then you can fix it? Right? And then now we're talking about $1,000. Right? Don't give up on your dreams because of $1,000, right? I say this all the time, right? If you look at something and you go, oh my God, I can't do this because I don't have $1,000, right? Then you're screwed. Oh my God, I can't run a farm because I don't have $1,000. Well, you're screwed. Oh my God, I can't make myself $8,000 a month because I don't have $1,000. Then you're screwed. The $1,000 was the easy part. And I'm being completely serious, right? I mean, take a look at my situation. Even if I lost everything tomorrow, I would effectively be right back to where I am within 6 months. Why? Because I would be broke. I wouldn't be poor, I would be broke. There's a major difference. If you're poor, you're probably going to die that way. If you're broke, it's a very simple fix. You just need to go and make money. Making money is not difficult. America is the only country on the entire planet where it is actually easier to make money if you have less money. The more money you make, the more money you are looking to make, the harder it becomes. America is the only country that is set up like that. A lot of countries, if you're born poor and you try and not be poor, they'll throw you off a building. They'll stone you to death in the street. Right? I mean, it's not funny. Right? I mean, I'm being dead serious. There are countries in the world, a lot of countries where it's like, if you're born poor and you try and be not poor, they will have you assassinated in your sleep. They will drag you out into the street and stone you to death. Imagine being in Afghanistan. Right? If you're in Afghanistan and you're born poor and you want to go and be some high level ruler in Afghanistan, imagine what they're going to do to you. Imagine that you want to do better for yourself financially. You want to get to a point where you're rich, right? You want to go and start pulling oil at the ground. Imagine what they would do to you in Afghanistan, right? I mean, America is the only country where it's like, if I want to run 10.5 acres of cattle and I want to make myself $140,000 a year, I'm not going to be dragged out into the street and stoned to death for it. Right? I mean, it's like the only one. I mean, imagine trying to make money in Iraq. Imagine trying to make money in Iran. Imagine trying to make money in Saudi Arabia. Imagine trying to make money in China. Imagine trying to make money in North Korea. Almost impossible. And if you tried and you somehow even managed to succeed a little bit, you would be like, gotten rid of. It would have just been goodbye for you. And so America is like the only country on the entire planet where it is easier to make money if you're poor. Not poor if you're broke. If you're poor, you're screwed no matter what. I can almost guarantee, and I'm not saying this to make fun of people, right? I don't say this to make fun of people. Maybe if I make things very apparent and make things very, it's easy and make things very obvious, then you're going to go, oh my God, there is a lot of truth to this. If you're poor, you're probably going to die that way. If you're broke, it's easy to fix. You just, I've already told you how to make money. You're not even looking for money. Don't even go look for money anymore. You're looking for assets. You utilize assets to build your wealth tax-free. That I've talked about this all the time, right? That's how you make money. You want to make a large amount of money, what you need are assets. You need appreciable assets. You need assets that you can increase in value profitably. And once you can do that, you can essentially make as much money as you want. You're essentially just a money printing machine. You can make as much money as you want. And so, if you're broke, it's easy. If you're broke, if I was broke tomorrow, if I lost my farm and everything and I just had to start over again from the very, very, very beginning, it would not be hard for me. I would effectively be right back to where I am within 6 months. Within 6 months to a year. I would just go and rent myself a 25, 35 acre farm. Right? I would just go and get a job, pay for my rent, and then I would just go to the bank, ask for a line of credit, get myself a line of credit, and start purchasing cattle and start running cattle again. And if I run cattle, I make so much money, I can do whatever I want. Right? I mean, that's the big idea. And I can almost guarantee it. And I've already talked about the idea of being poor. And this is going to sound horrible. But, I mean, we just going to have to be, we just going to have to accept it. Just think about it for what it is. Usually by the time you're maybe about 15 to 18 years old, you've already become a poor person. And so, you don't want to become poor from the very beginning, and this is going to sound hard, but I've already said that, a lot of people don't realize that if you really wanted to, you could just choose to not be poor tomorrow. You could wake up tomorrow as a broke person and not a poor person. Right? And if you're a broke person, you can fix that within 6 months. It's not hard. But if you're poor, you're going to be stuck that way forever. And usually by the time you're about 15 to 18, you're a poor person. If you're going to be poor, you're usually by the time you're about 15 or 18, you're already poor. And then you're stuck that way forever. Right? This is also why I say you don't want to be in a situation where you've surrounded yourself with idiots. And now you're fiddling diddlies with other idiots. Because if you do that, you're all going to collectively be poor together forever. And here's another way to think about it. If I walked into a Walmart right now, if I walked into a Costco right now, if I walked into a Trader Joe's right now, if I walked into a whatever, wherever, anything, How many people do you think will be speaking like me? How many people do you know will be living like me? If you ask me what I'm doing with my money, right? Well, about 75 to 80% of my income is invested into tax-deductible assets that I can knowledgeably appreciate. About 75, 80%. If I make $5, I invest about $4. You know, how many people do you, even that, how many people do you think you're gonna meet that talk like that actually do this? Almost nobody. And this is how you need to become. Even if nobody is doing it, you need to realize that this is what you need to do. If you bring home $5,000 tomorrow, if you bring home $5,000 for the month, you need to be investing 4,000 of it. And if you invest 4,000 of it and things go relatively okay, then you'll get 5,000 back. If things go horrible, then you'll get 2,500 of it back, and then you can use your $1,500 out of your income to make that asset whole, and then you can fix the problem. I'm telling you, if you do not invest money, it's almost like you're about to blow yourself up. If you're not investing money, you're going to blow yourself up financially eventually. You will run out of money. It could be when you're 70. You could end up bankrupting when you're 70. And I've been talking about if there's 20% inflation, then half of the country is screwed, right? If there's 20% inflation one more time, half of the country is screwed. Well, the central bank is talking about 2% inflation a year for the long term. And if there's 2% inflation a year, that means you're 10 years away from essentially just being screwed. If your income does not go up, if you're not investing into assets, if you're 10 years away from essentially just being screwed. And so, got to take a look at it for what it is, right? In a situation like in terms of a broader reality, in terms of a broader, this is actually what I do. I invest about 80% of my money. And I'm telling, I'm just speaking the truth, right? I'm just telling the truth. If you live in America and you don't invest your money, you're going to be poor forever. You're not going to be broke, you're going to be poor. And if you're poor, you're stuck like that forever. I can almost guarantee it, because if you're broke, it's not a big deal. Because being broke is not hard. Right? You just don't have money, but it doesn't really matter, because in 6 months, you'll have money again. So it doesn't matter. Right? Being broke is not hard. Being poor is almost always a death trap. You're almost always stuck that way forever. And if you want to get out of you could wake up tomorrow and not be poor. You could wake up tomorrow and be a broke person. And if you're broke, you can fix that in 6 months. And how do you do that? You start investing your money. And when you invest your money, you're trading your money for something that is equally as valuable as the money itself. And if your investment goes okay, then you should be making a $1,000 or so return on your $4,000 investment. And if your investment does not go okay, then you should be getting $2,500 out of your $4,000 back. And then now you should be trying to solve that problem, trying to make your investment run better, right? And so, finding the solution for being broke is easy. The solution for being broke is easy. The solution for being poor is almost always just death. You're not, once you've become poor, you're pretty much stuck like that forever. I can almost guarantee it. And a very realistic way to look at it is like me. If I lost everything tomorrow, I lost my farm, I lost my cattle, I lost, but me, I still had my 2 hands and my 2 feet, and I had my mind. I would have everything back within 6 months. It wouldn't even be hard. It would just be a little difficult for 6 months, but being broke is easy. You just don't have money. Right? It's not like you're having a life and death battle over everything. It's not like you're having some a spiritual, a battle thinking about selling your soul every minute of the day. right? I mean, it's just, you just don't have money, and it's not that big of a deal. Because even if you don't have money in 6 months, if you know, like me, even if I didn't have money in 6 months, I could essentially just do everything again. And if I did this all over again, I would have so much money I could do whatever I wanted. So it's, I mean, it's not hard, right? I mean, being broke is easy. Solving being broke is easy. Being poor is almost impossible, and you're also probably going to die that way. And I can almost guarantee that, you know, like, if you're in a situation where, like, you've got a child or something, you know, and I don't know what it's like to have a child, but, you know, I can almost guarantee that by the time you're, you know, they're about 15 to 18 years old, you will have essentially a poor person or a not poor person. I can almost guarantee it. And, you know, and being not poor is easy, right? Being broke is easy, because if you're broke, you can always just fix that, right? I mean, you just go out and you just make some more money. It's not hard. But if you've become poor, it's going to be almost impossible. And, you know, and I don't know, you know, I don't know what it's like to have a child, right? I don't know. But I can almost guarantee that the child will either be poor or not poor by the time, if I took a look at a child and took a good look at them, I could probably tell with 99.8% accuracy whether or not they're going to be poor or not when they turn 30. I can almost guarantee it. You know, I can almost, you know, I would be willing to bet 99.8% accuracy. You know, if they're acting like an idiot, right? If they don't really know nothing, you know, if they're, you know, if they don't really know how to do anything, if they're kind of an idiot, right? I mean, then I can almost guarantee it. You know, and because I've already talked about this, but in terms of actually learning how to do something, and should you give up hope? No, right? I've already said that even if you're 30, you can easily break out of not being poor. I mean, you could wake up tomorrow and be broke and not poor. You could go and do things that do not require a skill set, and you could still make enough money to live a very comfortable life, right? I mean, you don't need to become the world's greatest farmer to make money. Right? And me, you know, if I was not extremely capable at farming, I would not have been able to make it. The only reason that I made it to this degree was because I was very good at it. And I'm telling, you know, it doesn't matter who you are. If you're not born with 200, okay. If you're born with 200 IQ and you're doing calculus by the time you're 5, and you're speaking 10 languages by the time you're 2, and everything that I say just sticks to you like a Velcro strip, right? Everything just sticks to you like Velcro, and everything that I'm saying right now just makes complete sense to you, and you're just digesting all of this information at a massive rate. If that's you, then sure, maybe you can make it by the time, like, you know, maybe you can make it in 5 years. But if you're not 200 IQ, you're not, I mean, even if you're fast, you know, if you're not 200 IQ, I mean, you know, chances are you're not 200 IQ, right? Nobody is. Almost nobody is. Even me, I'm not anywhere close to 200 IQ. Right? I don't know what my IQ is, but it's not even past 150. It's not even past 140. Right? I mean, maybe I'm in like the top 35% for IQ, right? I mean, I'm obviously not some mega genius. Right? I mean, farming is about the only thing that I know. You know, I'm not like drawing pictures of constellations and like looking at, you know, like farming is like the only thing that I could do. I'm practically a one-trick pony. Farming is it. I'm not like studying medicine and astrology and doing math and biology. That's not me, right? All I do is farm, right? And I'm saying that, and I've already said this too, but you know, even if you learn how to just farm or anything, if you learn how to do just one thing and you learn how to do it very well, you don't really need to worry about it. That's from what I've seen. Because like me, it's like, even if all I did was farm, if all I did was farm, I could make enough money to do whatever I wanted. I could effectively just do whatever I want as long as I'm farming and not doing something like drugs or alcohol. You know, I could effectively do anything that I want. And I can almost guarantee, you know, and you don't want to be turning people poor, right? I've always said that the worst thing that you can do as a poor person is turn other people poor. You could wake up tomorrow and not be a poor person. You could wake up tomorrow a broke person if you felt like it. You know, and then if you're broke, you can fix that in 6 months. You know, it's not hard. But usually, almost always, being poor is a death sentence. It usually is, right? I mean, you're having a life and death battle over everything. And, you know, you're having, you know, it's like a spiritual battle going on inside of you all the time. You're debating whether or not you should sell your soul at every minute of the day. You know, all these things, right? And it's like, you know, if you used all of that effort to actually just do better for yourself, you could have figured it out already. It's not hard, right? I guarantee it. And so, you know, and I'm going to use me as an example. If I lost everything tomorrow, even if I lost everything tomorrow, within 6 months, I would have everything right back. Right? I would just go and rent myself another farm. I would rent a farm, go and get a job, pay for my rent, go to the bank, get a line of credit, purchase more cattle, run my cattle, and within 6 months, I would essentially be making $8,000-$9,000 a month. I could do whatever I wanted. If I'm making $8,000-$9,000 a month and I reinvest that, I could turn that into about $50,000 a month within a year. Right? I mean, I would have everything back within like a year. I'm right back to where I was. So being broke is not difficult. It's easy. You just don't have money. You can always go out and make money. But if you're poor, it's almost always a death sentence. But that's it for me today, YouTube. Y'all have a good one.